for early nominating states, seeing them as a package, trying to rewrite the rules here, if you will, including the more diverse South Carolina and Nevada. He again downplayed his chances in New Hampshire, noting that historically the state has favored candidates who hailed from neighboring states and pledged to keep moving, whatever the outcome is in Tuesday's primaries. So that's a pretty crazy thing. But here's something even more crazier. With the results in the Iowa caucuses still unclear after nearly a week, the state Democratic Party this weekend was furiously re-examining results from 95 precincts, about 5% of the total. But when the party delivers its updated results, which is promised to do on Monday, they may hardly reassure candidates and voters after internal emails from Saturday night revealed the party would not correct even blatant errors in the official handwriting tally sheets from individual precincts. Again, there's no evidence that they were doing this completely, because some of the errors did hurt Pete Buttigieg. I'm trying to be fair on this here. There's no evidence they were completely going against Bernie, but this is just some absolutely insane logic. I know it's kind of like my job here doing a podcast, whatever, to come and explain this, but I just can't. It doesn't make any sense to me. How? Just take a look at this. So, yeah, these are the records. They're known as caucus math worksheets. They cannot be changed even if they contain mistakes, according to a lawyer from the Iowa Democratic Party, because they're a legal record and altering them would be a crime. The incorrect math in the caucus worksheets must not be changed to ensure the integrity of the process, wrote the party lawyer Shayla McCormley, according to an email sent by Troy Price, the chairman of the party, to its Central Committee members. The lawyer said correcting the math would introduce personal opinion into the official record of the results. What? What? I can't explain this. I just cannot explain this. I'm going to read this again. The incorrect math on the caucus math worksheets must not be changed to ensure the integrity of the process. The wrong, incorrect results, if they're changed, would damage the integrity of the process. That's what we're hearing. Absolutely insane. The lawyers said correcting the math would introduce personal opinion into the official record of the results. Absolutely. I don't understand. It's crazy. Yeah. Errors in the result tabulations have led to several news organizations, including the New York Times, to refrain from calling the race. Shortly after the party's announcement, Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign manager, Faz Shakir, said the campaign would be calling for a partial recanvass of the results. The deadline for a campaign to make such a request is noon Central Time on Monday, as they should. The party's re-examination did not change earlier projections that Buttigieg led in the count of national delegates, but it moved one more into his column. The party said that Buttigieg has received 14 national delegates, not state delegate equivalents. Senator Bernie Sanders took 12. Senator Elizabeth Warren earned 8. Former Vice President Joe Biden received 6, and Amy Klobuchar got 1. So AP hasn't called it. The AP has not declared a winner in the Iowa race whatsoever. The Times, which has followed the AP's calls in the past, has not assigned the final delegate to Buttigieg either. So the AP hasn't also allocated the delegate. In an interview with CNN, Shakir expressed confidence that Sanders would have had the same number of national delegates as Buttigieg after it's all said and done, suggesting that the Sanders campaign believed a recanvass could result in a delegate being reassigned from Buttigieg to Sanders. A Sanders aide confirmed the campaign would be seeking a partial recanvass of the results. The Iowa Democratic Party did not immediately respond to a request for comment. In recent days, Buttigieg had claimed to have won Iowa because he leads the delegate count by a thin margin, while Sanders claimed victory because he had the most total supporters in both rounds of the caucus night. A tally of another metric, state delegate equivalent, showed an even tighter race, just 3 delegates apart from 564 to 561, a difference of 0.1% of the total awarded. The party's re-examination of the results after it failed to report the results on Monday night, throwing the Democratic nominating race into an uproar, is unlikely to assure candidates and voters. Internal Iowa Democratic Party emails over the weekend revealed that although the party was taking a second look at some problematic precincts, close to 5% total, it would not fix errors that occurred on the official handwritten tally sheets from these precincts. Those records are known as caucus math worksheets, which is absolutely insane. I just don't know. I don't know where I can do with this. I don't know what to do. It's just like, it's literally, it's right there. The math is blatantly wrong, and most of it favors Buttigieg. Not all of it, but most of it favors Pete Buttigieg. And now what we got is this insanity that we cannot change blatant mistakes. It's insane. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Let's take a look at, before we move on here, to the final polls. New Hampshire right now. This is a polling average that's greatly narrowed in terms of polls here. It's right now, Pete Buttigieg is up. Sorry, Bernie Sanders leads in New Hampshire polling at 23 to Pete Buttigieg's 17, followed by 18 according to Joe Biden, and Pete Buttigieg 17 polling average in New Hampshire. As it seems right now, the latest polls, they're kind of all over the map. Let's do the 5:30. Let's do the. You know what? Let's do the Real Clear Politics Democratic primary polls here for NH right now. So yeah, in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders 26.1, Buttigieg 21.3, Warren 13.4. So Warren Sanders up by 4.8. Really a drastic rise from Buttigieg, from starting coming in at 14, all the way up to 22. At last count. So they've both gone down a little bit, Buttigieg and Sanders, but it is quite incredible. So CNN UNH 21 to 28, 23 to 20 was in the Boston Herald Franklin Pierce poll. And you look at the WHDH Emerson 30 to 20, that was earlier this week before Iowa, but you can see the drastic change in results that took place after Iowa. So it was, yeah, Sanders has been up in all of them, but by winnowing margins each and every time. So, yeah, there's tracking polls. All we know is going to be a tight race. If you want Bernie Sanders to win, if you want Pete Buttigieg to come in, my advice is organize and organize and organize. Get knocking, because it's going to be crazy. All right. Democratic primaries. We're talking about it. MSNBC host Chris Matthews, he drew rebukes on social media Friday night after suggesting that Democratic Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders could lead a dictatorship in which the establishment political figures will be executed should he win the presidency. This is pretty crazy. Take a listen.
I have my own views of the word socialist, and I'll be glad to share them with you in private. And they go back to the early 1950s. I have an attitude about them. I remember the Cold War. I have an attitude towards Castro. I believe if Castro and the Reds had won the Cold War, there would have been executions in Central Park, and I might have been one of the ones getting executed. And certain other people would be there cheering, okay? So I have a problem with people who took the other side. I don't know who Bernie supports over these years. I don't know what he means by social. 1 week it's Denmark. We're going to be like Denmark. Okay, that's harmless. That's basically a capitalist country with a lot of good social welfare programs. Denmark is harmless.
It's pretty clearly in the Denmark category, yeah.
Are you sure? How do you know? Did he tell you that?
Well, I mean, that's what he says, and that's what his agenda calls
If you literally go off anything he's ever said and done, yeah.
for, right?
Yeah.
He's not calling for any...
Let's see. Let's figure that one out.
But we haven't seen a campaign yet where video of him praising the other version of Castro has been used.
Well, but it
will be used.
That's a question
of how that plays out.
Of how what the effect that has.
Well, what does he think of Castro? That's a great question. What did you think of Fidelismo? We all thought he was great when he first. I thought he was cheering like mad for him when he first went in, and then he became a communist and started shooting every one of his enemies.
Okay, hold those thoughts on the Cuban Revolution. I have to go back to.
Yeah, it's just absolutely insane. Chris Hayes coming in and be like, yeah, I mean, I think he's not going to start a revolution. He's not going to just spill MSNBC's blood in the streets. Like, that's a little insane. Like, it's just like, I don't even know who this really hurts, because like most likely all the people who are going to be moved by this argument are probably deeply against Bernie Sanders anyway, but the idea that he's going to come out in the streets with a political revolution. I mean, obviously he's calling for a political revolution, but like a violent revolution. They're obviously two completely different things, turns of phrase, whatever. I don't think it really moves anywhere. It just looks, it firmly cements the image in many people's minds that this dude is insane. Like he's if you see the image of it, it's just like that's what it sounds like in my mind. It's like he's just blabbering like a baby has to be consoled on the MSNBC set. It's really insane. It's absolutely insane to see someone melting down like this, and especially if Bernie Sanders on Tuesday convincingly wins the Democratic primary. Oh, it'll be like the scene at the end of The Kingsman on MSNBC where people's heads will just explode. Like, even though the win was like relatively expected, like you just get the sense it's going to be absolute madness. But yeah, it'll be a celebration here on SWRN, but that's why you should listen to us, because we're just chill about it. Anyway, here's something we're celebrating. The award-winning American investigative journalist Glenn Greenwald welcomed a Brazilian judge's decision on Thursday to reject cybercrime charges that federal prosecutors brought against him last month, but also promised to keep fighting against assaults on the press freedom and right-wing government by the right-wing government president of Brazil, President Jair Bolsonaro. He responded to the judge's decision on Twitter. In videos in both English and Portuguese. It's obviously good news, but not good enough for us. Our lawyers are now going to the Brazilian Supreme Court and seeking a much broader ruling. So good for him. He's actually going for complete entire press freedom, because if you don't know, I do encourage you to check out our episodes about Lava Jato, based off the work that Glenn Greenwald did, pretty much just laying out what's happened in that, just giving you the full update on the entire Operation Car Wash scandal, the impact of Jair Bolsonaro, and some of the crazy. You think Trump's bad? He is about 10 times, 50 times worse. He is a complete and utter fascist, really increasing the level of political violence, and it's everything that every liberal's worst fantasy of Trump is really what Bolsonaro is in life, and especially the leftist people of Brazil have had to deal with. Like, ever since he released this reporting that pretty much shows Bolsonaro's corruption incredibly blatantly through leaked messages, it's been impossible for him to leave his house without armed security guards, because that is the level of that's the level of criminal that is in the Brazilian presidential wherever the president lives in Brazil, because they have been implicated in literally assassinating a congresswoman, Marielle Franco. Right-wing paramilitary gangs are controlled by the son, like Flavio. His name is literally Flavio. It's just an absolute mess. The stories there are just too big to really break down, but if you listen to some interviews with Glenn Greenwald, like the people mad at him for going on Tucker Carlson on Fox News and trying to spread his message to the biggest audience that he possibly can, and being very effective in conveying those messages. Like, the funny thing is when they accuse him of being a fascist enabler, like when he's done more to fight fascism in 1/10 of his career than most of the people writing that have actually had to done or ever had to risk in their entire lives. Like, it's insane. Like, he's fought fascism with the U.S. government and the national security state. Now he's doing it in Brazil. So you really need to have if you're serious about fighting bad people, like objectively bad people, you have got to stand behind Glenn Greenwald, whatever he may have said to you on Twitter, or whatever he may have said to you about your precious, priceless Russiagate. Like, he is doing really, really good work here, exposing blatant corruption and blatant effort by the Brazilian right wing and the Brazilian justice system to sideline the most popular leftist candidate, Lula da Silva. That's pretty much what his work showed through the Lava Jato investigation, to kind of sum it up for you there. But you should definitely go back and check out our 2 episodes on that in Newsflash. I forget which ones they were, but did a 2-parter on that. But he lives in Rio de Janeiro with his husband, Brazilian Congressman David Miranda. By the way, it's not great to be LGBTQ in Brazil right now. There's rampant anti-LGBTQ violence and hatred there. The family faced mounting threats from Bolsonaro's vitriolic anti-LGBTQ authoritarian dictatorship-supporting movement, culminating in the cybercrime charges that were beaten.